Okay. This is the Warrant and Finance Committee workshop for May 12th, 2014. Time open at 6:05 p.m. And essentially what we're going to do here is discuss the warrant. That was released, the draft warrant was released to us this is Monday, was released on Friday, and over the weekend some magical things have happened to it to put it in electronic form. And we're going to just go through it and see if there are any questions or comments or concerns or any of those things. What I'd like, we actually have tonight, we have tomorrow night as well. The object is pretty much to not burn out us or the home audience. So if anybody needs a break, please let me know. I have sort of the tendency to just plod on through though. But I'm going to try to cut this in about half so we can cover it in 2 nights.
What time's the game?
7:30.
Good luck with that.
Antiques Roadshow is what I'm waiting for.
Okay, so last year we had 41 articles. This year we have 47 articles, so it's a little more of the non-repeating articles this time around. So, Article 6. To see if the town will authorize Board of Selectmen to appropriate and expend monies from the undesignated fund balance with the advice of Warrant and Finance Committee for the purchase of equipment or to use as they deem advisable to meet unanticipated expenses and emergencies that occurred during fiscal year 2015, maximum expenditure $15,000. So essentially this is one that we see every year. Key elements here, the advice of Warrant and Finance, not advice and consent. That was changed a couple of years ago. Once we kind of knew what our job was, and maximum expenditure $15,000, and we're changing fiscal year 2015. Last year was 2014, and $15,000, $15,000 again, and this is the first year, 2011, where per legal advice, we slightly changed what we were doing.
May I ask a couple questions?
Sure.
First of all, you said we understand what we were doing. We have always understood that the approval for the $15,000 was with the advice and consent, requiring the consent or the approval of the Warrant and Finance Committee. That's been the acting policy for a long time, and I don't see that has anything. The removal of the consent has anything to do with the purpose of the committee.
Was it 2010 or 2011? 2011, we had the whole warrant go to the attorneys, and it was changed based on the recommendation of the attorneys. So.
And it was unequivocal that Warrant Finance is an advisory body only, has nothing to do with consent in any shape or form.
I understand that it's advisory. Is it advisory to the town meeting? It is not advisory to the selectmen. It is a body created by...
to legal advice, it is.
Okay. Well...
But we wouldn't be going to the town meeting if we had an emergency. We need the $15,000. We just come in and meet with you guys and say, hey, we've got this emergency. We need $15,000. What do you think? And if we have an emergency bad enough to need the $15,000, I don't think there's going to be any issues. So.
And this also ties in with 3 years ago now. We came up with the Warrant and Finance Committee ordinance that essentially spells out, updated one from like the 1970s. And really spells out what the committee can do, cannot do, should do. And that's something that I hand out at the beginning of each successive year, just so that we're all on the same page in that respect. And that is one other thing that is pretty clear, that we're talking about advice only. So essentially, the bottom line of this article is that it is in keeping with the current understanding that the Warrant Finance is advisory only, and cannot mandate anything. It's just water cooler. Gee, do you like it? Do you not like it?
So in essence, what we are doing would be approving or authorizing the selectmen to expend at their discretion up to $15,000. Well, I think that should be more clearly stated then, if that's the intent.
I believe that's what it states.
What
For the
does it
purchase
say?
of it, so it's authorizing the select board. Actually, let's go to this year's rather than several years ago. Authorize the Board of Selectmen, and this would be the town, authorizing the Board of Selectmen to appropriate and expend monies from undesignated funds, Warrant and Finance Committee advice, and then essentially for purposes as the Board of Selectmen deem advisable.
I bring the issue up because a number of years ago, approximately 10 to 15 years ago, the same issue came before the town meeting, when the town meeting was requested to authorize the selectmen to expend up to this sum of $15,000 at their discretion, and the town meeting refused it. I guess my objection here is that it be made clear what the intent of that is. It's not clear in the article that the selectmen don't require the consent of the Warrant and Finance Committee then. So
The fact
I'm
that the
basing my
word
objection
consent-
simply on that.
Okay, but the fact that the word consent is not there, it's advice.
Well, okay.
And it used to be consent. And absolutely, the town is the legislative body here, and the town can certainly, as this stuff comes up, is free to ask whatever questions it needs to and vote up or vote down any of the stuff that comes up. Essentially, this sets up a platform for that discourse to go on between the town body and the selectmen about whatever expenses.
May I go a little bit further?
Sure.
A number of years ago, we'll also recall a scenario where we authorized the school board to negotiate a contract with the town of Sanford. It wasn't clear in the article whether the contract actually authorized the school board then to sign a contract with the town of Sanford, or simply authorized the negotiation for a contract to be presented to the town meeting for its approval. The school board moved ahead and signed the contract and committed the town for a period of 5 years without the specific consent of the town meeting. That's the kind of clarity that needs to be clear in this article, what the purpose is. It is unclear in this article the way it's stated. That's my objection to the article.
Does it show the lawyer's opinion on that one on 2011? It said Larissa Crockett said, I don't know if we...
I don't know if the whole thing was
if we
going to show up.
included the lawyer's opinion.
Skew
There,
the,
yeah, there's the,
yeah, let me twist that a little bit here. Yeah.
go up one.
Yeah, do you still need to raise that as well? Unexpected need, I think you can read
That's
that
it.
last line.
With respect to Article 14, I would recommend the following changes. To see if the town will authorize the selectmen to appropriate and expend monies from the undesignated surplus. As a general rule, any money to spend must be approved by the town meeting, and the appropriation must specify the source of the funds, here surplus. Okay, and where was the one that,
Above that one?
is it above that one that has, can you go up a little higher?
Yeah, so this used to have, okay, in prior years, we actually had 2 articles.
It went by.
And then they were essentially,
Oh, that's what it was, yeah?
yeah, so prior to 2011, we had advice and consent, essentially with the premise that Warrant and Finance could say, no, you can't do that, and the selectmen would have to abide by that, but that is not the fact of the matter.
Or call a special town meeting,
Yeah,
go back to the
and the
town
other
board.
point here that I think I wasn't totally clicking on when, in the prior conversation, is that this does, this is appropriating $15,000 hypothetically that will not have to go in front of town meeting. So the selectmen, at their discretion, if the town votes this in, and they have each year for quite some time, essentially, the selectmen would have to justify themselves, but there's the approval from the town body is approving this article. So yes, I totally agree that there's a certain risk in trusting the folks that you elect to do pretty much what you think makes good sense with the money that you're now authorizing them to hypothetically expend up to $15,000 at some point during the course of the fiscal
For
year.
an emergency, and we haven't done it. We haven't used it in the 4 years I've been here. Even with the well going out last year, we used maintenance money to do that.
I think I understand these things, and again, my objection is not to the article itself. My objection is to the clarity with which the article is presented, written and presented. It is not clear to the body that the article authorizes, actually already appropriates, and authorizes the selectmen to expend.
This is an appropriation article. Doesn't mean it's gonna be spent, but
Well,
it doesn't.
no appropriation has to be spent.
Right, but it does not have to go before the town body again, before that money can be spent.
Well,
And that's very definitely
I've expressed my concern, we can move ahead.
So it is a one-time expenditure, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
the
it's a-
maximum is $15,000.
Yeah, if we have an emergency, I mean, you guys gave the school board $50,000 for this.
Yes, it's exactly the same premise.
Yep. You gave them $50,000 to spend in an emergency for the next fiscal year.
I understand that also, and I think that was more clearly worded, but let's move ahead.
Okay, so essentially you're balancing the convenience of not having to come before town meeting for everything with the obvious liability that the town, you can't refuse something if you pre-approve it. All right. So Article 7, to see if the town will vote to authorize Board of Selectmen to reimburse members of Acton Fire and Rescue for any national disaster or state of emergency or other emergency situation that exceeds 8 hours in duration. Hourly rates to be paid at the same rates as established by Article 27, to be assigned at the fire chief's discretion, funds to come from undesignated fund balance. So, if you look at this one compared to last year, and this is another one of those housekeeping articles that we tend to see year by year, why is the phraseology less specific than in the past? So it's over here, it's going to talk about hourly rates, to basically at the fire chief's discretion, but then it says firefighters or rescue members, same as laborer, fire chiefs, same as road commissioners, funds to come from undesignated fund balance. So here, we're basically saying assigned at the fire chief's discretion, but it doesn't actually say any more than that. I guess it's sort of understood. If you look in Article 27, which we'll get there at some point, but essentially for wages, this is what it says. So there's really only a couple of classes of wages to go after. You get your road commissioners, and you get your laborer, operators, and truck drivers, and they're two different sets of rates. And one would assume that, say, over here, we have, say, a firefighter would get laborer rate, but the lack of specificity here in this year pretty much says, well, all of it is really up to the fire chief. If the fire chief wants to pay road commissioner rates for everybody that's on the fire department, they could. They couldn't last year, but they can this year. And that's, I guess, I don't expect that to happen.
Right.
But I'm a little curious why that is removed. Is there some purpose behind that, or just something that got lost in the sauce, or what?
Oh, I think what it is, I mean, we could put it back in, and it's not a big thing, but what it is they're just saying Article 27 to be at the fire chief's discretion. Peter knows who has what skills each of his firefighters have. So if they're a truck driver, then he'll put them on the truck driver's pay. And he does that now with the stipends, as far as the stipends that they get. So he already has that discretion now, so, we didn't specifically talk about changing that. The only other difference I can see is probably because, somebody new wrote the warrant articles this year. Michelle wrote them instead of Lorraine, so that might be the difference too.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd feel better having the degree of detail a little less to chance.
Okay. If
And I concur.
you just pass that on to Michelle, and she can change that pretty easily.
Thank you. Okay, 8, disposal of surplus town equipment. See if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to dispose of surplus town-owned equipment having a value of less than or equal to $500 on such terms and conditions as they deem advisable, and to execute any necessary documents to accomplish said purpose. All equipment having a value of more than $500 shall be put out to public bid. Funds received from such sales shall be placed in a capital reserve account for the associated department. So essentially, all of this is the same as we've seen in past years. What's new is the last sentence of where those funds are going to be going. Instead of going into the, I assume, undesignated fund, it's going into the capital reserve for the appropriate department.
The reason for that is, with this new fire truck, we had a fire truck donated to the town to use and ended up not be worth fixing, so we've got that. Then we've got the fire truck across the street that died, blew the engine. We're gonna put both of those out to bid, and the fire department said, well, is that gonna go back into the fire truck fund? So we said it should, so that's why we added that in there this year. So whatever money they get, they put out a minimum bid of $2,000 for one truck and $2,500 for the other truck. So if they sell those, whatever money comes in, we'll put right back into the fire truck fund. Now, I know Bob Mann has some surplus stuff up at the transfer station. He's got this big snowplow thing that goes on the front of a bucket that I don't know why they buy. I think it's still brand new. I don't think they've ever even used it, sitting right next side of the shed. If he sells that, then we could put the money into a fund for, future purchases at the dump, like this year, we're buying a new compactor, so. So each department will have, a capital reserve account, and if they sell any of their equipment, that money was, assigned to that department through the town meeting, so we think the money should go back to that department rather than just go into the undesignated fund.
Yeah, I certainly think it makes sense, and it's fair. It's fairer than before, where a department gives up, tries to be diligent and say, okay, we're not using this, we need to, the town needs to get some funds for this, that's just sitting around, and it should go back to the department that it came from, I would think.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds fair.
Yeah, because their money, it was their money that was used to buy it, so we might as well reimburse them whatever comes in for it. So, if they get $4,500, goes into the new fire truck fund, because they're looking at about 3 years for a new tanker truck, so. Because the one they have is
And especially where it involves the fire department, that capital reserve account is exactly where the funds for a fire truck is gonna come from, so.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
None for me.
Okay, Article 9, see if the town will vote to put the funds received from the sale of the tax-acquired property during the year 2014-2015 into the capital improvement fund. So this year, we are in 2013-2014, so we're talking about this budget year. And essentially, we can see that we're advancing by 1 year each time. That's the way it should be. So as far as how it's written and compared to prior years, it looks reasonable. Any discussion about what it does?
I only have one question with respect to the establishment of these capital reserve funds. I certainly approve of them, and I think they are long overdue. My concern is this, that we have we create a body of capital reserve funds, and we also create or maintain an undesignated fund balance. I've already expressed some concern about the level of that undesignated fund balance. When we look at the size of the undesignated fund balance, do we include those capital funds?
No.
That's what I thought. So the possibility exists here that we are creating an ever larger accumulation of funds above and beyond our undesignated fund balance in these capital accounts.
Well, we just started the capital improvement fund last year, well, actually the year before. We only have $40,000 in it right now, and that's from us asking at the end of the year to put so much in. I think it was $40,000 last year, we're gonna ask for $40,000 this year. And then we came back and asked to take some of that money to do different projects, like, I can't remember what we asked for it for now. Last year, we asked, there's another article that we asked to take some money.
Yeah, last year, we had accessibility improvements to the town hall, was $15,000.
Yeah, that's for the new handicap sidewalk that they should be starting in a week or two. So we took that out so we didn't raise taxes. This year, we're gonna ask for $35,000 to finish the roof on the town hall so that we can finish the siding with our maintenance money. It's not gonna be built up into this big account, but we're using it to do projects, that we can't do with just the $25,000 in the maintenance fund, and we're not asking the town to raise, we're not raising the taxes to do it. The other thing is, once the town hall is done, We've got 2 walls sided, we've got 2 sections of roof done. If we can get the rest of the roof done, we can do another wall of siding this year, and then we only have 1 wall left. Then the capital improvement fund will start collecting towards a new salt shed, because that's our next big project. There hasn't been one, and there hasn't been a lot of work done. I mean, the Lincoln School is falling apart, it's leaking, it's coming off its foundation. The insurance company has condemned it. We got this building out here, the fire station, that's gonna need a new roof. You know, the building maintenance has not been done for a long time, and we're trying to catch up on it. That's why we established the capital improvement fund. The improvement fund for the fire department is just for purchase of a new fire truck. When we get to the amount that we went up to $75,000 a year, because we knew we were gonna buy a truck last year. But since then, we've brought that number down because we bought the new truck because of the payment. So we've only been putting like $20,000 or $30,000, the difference between their annual payment and the $75,000. We are going to be finished with the reeval this year. Halfway through the year, we'll be done with that. Then next year, we're going to ask for $50,000 of the fire truck every year until we get, I think they said $350 for the next one. That'll just sit there waiting for the next fire truck, but we won't continue adding beyond that. But what we do need to do is start putting funds into that. As far as the undesignated fund, in June, we had 1.1 million in ours. I just found out about the 800,000 in the school at that last meeting of the school. I didn't even realize that they had that much. We are down now, I believe, to 900,000. We're going to be asking to put up to 200,000 towards taxes this year, so we don't have to raise taxes. And of course, we're going to be asking for a couple of other things from the undesignated fund too. So we are going to bring that down in order to make sure that taxes don't get raised this year.
Okay, do I understand, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can I?
Sure, go ahead.
Do I understand correctly that you folks just understood that the school had this undesignated fund balance that they were claiming as their own of $800,000, so
Yeah, well, we thought our undesignated balance, because we pay all the bills.
Right.
We were trying to get to 1.3 million, which is 3 months of all the bills. That's the town's bills, the school's bills. So that's what we were trying to build up to.
Right.
Then we found out that they have 800,000 of it as an undesignated fund of their own. Now, from what I understand, 4 years ago, that was brought down to nothing. So they put in $200,000 each year into their undesignated fund and didn't put any money forward towards taxes. So, I mean, this year they took 100 and something out of their undesignated fund, but that was for $50,000 for emergency fund and $40,000 in case they have a special ed student come in. So that's not going towards taxes. Then they did put in another $10,000, because remember they said that taxes were going to go up for $10,000. So they did put that in. So they had a zero increase. So their balance, well, not knowing what they're going to have left over this year, their balance was 800,000, and they're taking 110,000 out of that.
just to enlighten on that a little bit, I think it's important to understand that the funding in the town and the school in Acton is quite different than it is in the SADs.
No.
Well,
Not with the law changes.
well, my
They have their
understanding
own
is,
complete set of laws and rules. They even have their own separate accountant that deals with theirs, that does schools and not town, because the rules are that different since the RSUs came into effect.
okay, it was changed with RSUs then?
Yeah, as far as, you know, how they write their warrant, I mean, we had to correct that a couple of years ago because they were asking for money twice for, remember the article for the free lunch program or the school cafeteria? Before, they had it in two different articles, and what was happening is we were charging the town twice, and nobody realized it, and the accountant kept saying, you're doing this, you do it. So we got that changed. So now, we go to Drummond and Woodsum and have their articles all checked by them, and we had to change a few this year. But the money that they have in their undesignated fund was voted by the town to go to the school. So the town can't, the selectmen can't touch that money other than to ask the town at the school meeting to put it forward. I mean, the selectmen could get up and ask them to put some more of that forward, take it out of that account, but we can't use that money for anything other than school business, because that's school money.
Correct, but money is fungible, one, and the other point I would make is that the notion that money has been appropriated for the schools and belongs with the schools originates with the creation of the MSAD districts, because the districts, of course, included more than one town generally.
Right.
That having been said, we'll just move ahead, but I'm interested to hear that the $800,000 you folks didn't know about. So we're going to be dealing with this,
The RS, yeah. but
total undesignated fund balance.
Just because Acton didn't join an RSU, we still have to go by all the new laws that came out for an RSU. So they are still a separate entity. They are, the school board's in charge of their finances, in charge of, their budgets and all that. All the selectmen do is sign the warrant because it's our warrant, but they're in charge of the spending of the money from that account.
Ready to move on?
I think so. We'll explore this. Thanks, Ted.
Little diversion, thank you. Okay, Article 10, see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to sell any tax-acquired property and issue a quit-claim deed for same, sale to be by sealed bid or public auction if two other than the owner of record at the time of foreclosure, and no selectman during the term of his or her office may acquire from the town any interest in real estate acquired by the town on account of non-payment of taxes, unless the owner of record at the time of foreclosure was the selectman or the son, daughter, spouse, or parent of the selectman. This is another one that's been around for a while, and this is another one that went through a legal revamp when the whole warrant was examined from legal, and I know you don't see quite all of that over there, but if you happen to want to look at it a little further, I'll move the overhead again. But essentially, it went through a reshuffle, and we've been consistent with what we've done since then. And I think this, we've been going through town meeting without real discussion, and I don't necessarily know that we need to have any further discussion, but
Yeah, the one
questions or comments?
The one before is the one that talks about the money, and then this one is just to allow us to give a quitclaim deed. We do have two properties that we foreclosed on this year that we're going to be putting out to auction. We just had to do a little housekeeping to make sure that the deeds were clear, and now we're sure they are. So we have two lots of land that we're going to put out to bid pretty soon. We'll just, whoever buys it, we'll just give them a quitclaim deed.
Any further discussion? Okay, so this one sort of goes hand in hand with the previous. Article 11, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen upon request of the treasurer to allow the treasurer to waive foreclosure of a tax lien on a specified property for a specified year with reference to the tax lien certificate recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds in circumstances where the Board of Selectmen determined that it is in the best interest of the town of Acton to waive foreclosure. And I'm pretty sure, yeah. So that one went through a retooling. And several years since then, it's been essentially unchanged. Any discussion, comment?
Just like a little clarification, this deals with the issue of not throwing somebody out of their house, right?
No, this deals with the issue of not taking property we don't want, like the tannery property.
Okay.
We don't want to take toxic waste property and to take on the liability of the toxic waste, so we can say we don't want it. And Milton did that with the tannery. They said no for years. I still don't think they ever took it. We did take the part on our side, and now the state's trying to give us the lagoon out there, saying that they don't want to work with it anymore, and they're trying to say that they're going to turn it over to the town.
What is the state of the lagoon down there? Has it
They
never cleaned up?
They just came in and cut everything up, all the trees and everything out of it during January. They were out there in January. So it's all big and an open wetland now is what it is. And so they came in and met with us, and they said, well, we're going to go in and clean it, and then we're going to give you the maintenance after. So that's all that's involved in the maintenance is keeping the trees down. But we haven't heard anything more from them. That's got to be close to a year now since they came in and told us that they were going to do that. So we haven't heard anything more. I think it's kind of like they're going to give us Milton Mills Road and Fox's Ridge Road. We haven't heard anything about that either. So I think it's the same idea. Somebody had an idea on how to save money, and they said, go tell the town we're going to do this.
You don't have to accept
And
the
the boat
deed.
launches too.
The boat launches, oh, they were going to give us the boat launches
Yes.
too?
Yeah, they tried to do that years ago. Tried to do it twice, actually.
Article 12, to see if the town will vote to have real estate and personal property taxes first payment come due on October 15, 2014, and second payment on April 15, 2015. So we've been basically dancing around these same dates a year in advance. Generally, what happens is the date changes, and sometimes it's by 2 days, typically for leap years, or 1 day otherwise. And the effect has been, for the last few years, to keep them to be Tuesdays. Now, I don't know if there's anything that was done deliberately, but that was the effect. And this year, if we go with these dates that essentially just change the year but not the day, we're going to end up on Wednesdays, and it creeps a little bit. So I don't know. Is it?
I don't think.
I don't have an issue with it, but
I don't think it's to keep it on a Tuesday, but Monday.
We're
Yeah,
closed. The town
yeah,
hall's
to make sure it's not a Monday, basically, so
Yeah.
any other day but
You
Monday?
can come in on the last day and be able to pay your taxes. And if it's a Sunday or something like that, they change it as well, I believe.
Okay, so I guess all I'll say there is, it's not a Tuesday, but other than that, they're 6 months apart, and they're on the right time of the year, and
They might both be Monday holiday weeks.
Oh, in
Patriots
October.
Day and
That's right.
Patriots Day in April.
Oh, yeah.
any further discussion on this one? All right. Interest rate charged on on tax payments. To see what interest the town will vote to charge on all taxes after October 15, 2014, and April 15, 2015. Maximum rate of interest allowed is 7% per annum. So essentially, if we look at the prior one here, this is Article 12, we see the October 15 and the April 15, and the October 15 and the April 15, so 14 and 15. So essentially, it's the same dates. These two articles do need to go in lockstep. And the maximum rate of interest allowed is 7%. Typically, we do vote 7% at town meeting.
That's what the state allows. If the state were to go up, then we'll go up, because it was up a few years back, it was higher than that, but the state only allows 7%, so that's what we have to, that's the highest we can go.
So this one was new a couple of years ago. I think this might be the third year.
2011.
Fourth year, okay.
Same
so
time we had the
2011.
attorney look at it.
So what we ended up doing, we had a legal opinion, and it was suggested that we have a new article that allows this to be paid at a lesser rate than the 7%. Because if we don't have this article, what we end up having to do is pay the 7%. So I'm just going to read this. I understand that you don't at home see all of that stuff, or even here to see the whole thing, but I'll read the legal opinion. Explanation. If taxes are paid but later abated, the municipality must refund the abated taxes and pay interest on them. If a town fails to set a rate for interest on overpayments, the rate is by law the same as for delinquent taxes. So if this article is omitted, the municipality will be obligated by state law to pay interest on abated taxes at the same rate it charges delinquent taxpayers, when it could have voted to pay as little as 4% less than the delinquency rate. And it references 36 MRS subsection 506A, which provides that the rate of interest set by the municipality to be paid on overpayment may not exceed the rate set for delinquent taxes, nor be less than the rate reduced by 4%. For instance, if the delinquency rate is 7%, instead of paying 7%, the town can vote to pay only 3%.
Right.
And that's the point of this article.
Do you, reading that again, she does say paid abated taxes. I don't know. I guess nobody would expect to have interest paid on taxes that were abated before they paid them, but.
Like
Well,
the
if somebody's
delinquent and
getting
abating them later.
Somebody's, right.
If somebody's getting an abatement, they're not being charged taxes.
That's right.
I mean, interest, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
They're not being
interest,
charged interest.
yeah.
They're coming in and saying, hey, my tax evaluation's wrong, I want you to take that off my bill, or, pay me back. But, the interest would be on, when we foreclose on somebody, when we charge the 7%. So, somebody that's just coming in for an abatement wouldn't be charged interest, so.
Well, actually, I don't think you can file for an abatement unless you are current in your taxes. If you are behind, I think it is illegal to file for an abatement. my recollection is correct.
If what?
If you are delinquent in your taxes, you may not file for an abatement until you are current with your taxes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you have to file from within a year of when we,
But even if they're
Set the tax
different
rate.
taxpayers, you know, do we want to, on the one hand, you know, we're paying a rate, and on the other hand, we're getting a rate, can we do as well as we can on either side?
most abatements we've paid, they hadn't paid their taxes yet. We were just downgrading the value of their property, so there was actually no money had passed hands anyway, so that, I don't think we paid that 3% out yet. But it's there just in case.
Okay, Article 15. To see if the town will vote to authorize the tax collector to accept the prepayment of taxes before the tax commitment. I think this has been pretty much unchanged, even with the legal, even in 2011, it wasn't changed. And tax commitment is typically what, September-ish? So if somebody's going...
We have to have it done 30 days before the 15th, so if somebody leaves like in August to go to Florida stuff, a lot of times they'll come in and prepay their taxes, so that allows them to do that before we've committed the taxes, so. We tried now with the new contract, we tried to get them done second week in August, so it's worked pretty well the last couple of years.
So do they basically just pay what they paid the previous year, and then you just sort of settle whatever
And then make up the
difference is?
difference in April, yeah. But for the most part, you know, because we just did the reeval, we're not gonna be changing, their valuation anyway, so the valuation will be the same, tax bill would be the same. Unless we commit and go up, and then their tax bill will go up a little bit so that they can pay that later. And they'll get that bill in October. But a lot of people, you'd be surprised how many people come in and pay their full year's taxes in August.
Any further discussion? Moving on, Article 16. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to make application for and execute any documents related to any grant or donation, to accept any such grants or donations, or any fees, and appropriate such funds for the designated use, so long as they do not require matching funds. The treasurer shall be notified of any grant applications, and a copy shall be kept on file in the treasurer's office. And I think basically this right here is new this year.
Right.
So Ted, if you want to
Yeah,
discuss that.
well, we've been discussing the gym because the gym is starting to cost us money, and so we're raising the fees and everything. And we cannot find a copy of the gym grant, so if we were to shut the gym down, what do we do with the equipment? Can we shut the gym down? We don't know what everybody agreed to. So that, when that came up, we decided from now on, anybody writes grants, then they have to get a copy to Michelle so that we make sure that we have a copy for future years in case we need to look back on that grant, so.
Okay, so that takes care of that last sentence.
What's that?
So that takes care of the last sentence.
Yeah, the fire department might have one, we just haven't gone that far, but we don't have one here at the town hall, so that's why we decided from now on, we want a copy of it here in the town hall,
Yeah.
yeah.
So has it come up before that there was matching funds, that we were forced to accept some funds and encumber ourselves to come up with matching funds, or is this more of a preventative measure?
Well, we don't want people to file for grants that the town has to come up with matching funds until they come in and talk to us, and we talk to the town to see if they want to do it, because if somebody were to do a grant on behalf of the town, like just recently, we had a committee that we appointed for 6 months, and I guess they didn't get a grant written, so they would be writing it for the town. They were trying to do a community center, a block grant, and do a community center out here where the gym is. And so that just lets them know that if the grant's going to require funds from the town, then don't apply for that grant. Apply for one that the town doesn't have to contribute any money to it.
May I? Thank you. There's another, I believe, hole in this article, and that authorizes you folks to remove property from the tax rolls if somebody chose to donate that to you, which amounts to an expenditure or an obligation of the town. I think probably the article should be amended to prohibit the selectmen from removing property from the tax rolls or accepting any property that would remove the property from the tax rolls. You understand what I'm saying, Ted?
Yeah, I do. I see that now.
Yeah.
So the donation is not just monetary, it could be, hey,
Right. In other words, the town incurs an obligation. If I choose to give my piece of property to the town and the town decides to accept it for one reason or another, and that's done without the consent of the town meeting, then that becomes an encumberment of the town.
so conceivably, just add another phrase to that same sentence.
Can we go over to 2011 and see if that was a changed one?
Yeah, actually, 2011 was where we had the legal opinion. It says, with respect to Article 21, which is what it was at the time, I would recommend the following changes, to see if the town will authorize the selectmen to, and then new phraseology, to make application for and execute any documents related to any grant or donation. It's then said to accept any local, and that was stricken, such grants, donations, used to be fees, and to appropriate such funds for the designated use. So basically a little slice and dice on the previous article. And actually, I can show you what 2010 looked like if you're interested, because I don't have it on this chart, but I can pull it up
Yeah.
quick enough.
Well, isn't that 2010 and she just lined out the changes?
Conceivably.
Yeah.
Well, yes, if you
Yeah, she
if you
underlined-
look at the editing, so let me,
Yeah. She crossed through any, she took off and she underlined all the new language. Yeah, any cross through is taken out and
Previous.
underlined is the new
Underline will be
language,
added.
yeah.
and then later on that same year, I think that was the year we had a lot of different drafts, and later on that same year it turned into from 21 to 17, which is why there's a discrepancy of those numbers.
There's another scenario where that would authorize the selectmen to encumber the town without the approval of the town meeting, and that would be a scenario where, for instance, if the Boy Scout camp were to dissolve in the end, and the Boy Scouts decided to give the beach to the town, and the selectmen, well, it's hypothetical, right?
I know,
Okay?
but
Or a boat launch, okay, and a group of selectmen decided that that was a good idea, that becomes an encumberment of the town again without the approval of the body.
We'll give it to the
And,
rec
I have a problem with that, so
Yeah.
I think that article needs a little work.
So,
If the Boy Scouts come, we'll give it to the rec department. They're a private entity.
so would you recommend then that we use sort of general phraseology like encumbering the town?
Absolutely.
Or would we
I
say
mean,
something about specifically to removing from tax rolls?
Well-
Obviously, the removing from tax rolls would encumber the town.
That's correct.
So would you favor the broader phraseology or the?
I prefer the broader phraseology. The intent is that any action by the municipal government that encumbers the town be done with the consent of the body. And I think that's what we need to go for here. So,
Okay, so long as they do not require matching funds or otherwise encumber the town, how does that grab you? Is that too vague?
I wouldn't say an otherwise, I would say.
Okay, or encumber the
town in any way.
I would prefer to go with the legal opinion that we got, and that's what we're using, rather than trying to change a legal opinion.
I think it.
Well, you are already by
You're using
adding,
it, but you're not.
if you're referring to 2011, we're
Yeah.
already changing it. That's kind of the whole point. It is being changed this year.
I think a lot of times, if you'll excuse me for saying so, the legal community looks through very narrow eyes. They don't have the experience of the selectmen, and lots of times they write a little too narrowly.
Right.
I can think of a lot of legal opinions that I have issues with, but that's neither here nor there. But,
Right, they don't think of all the possibilities.
right,
I'm sure.
because they haven't experienced it.
Right.
They're presented with a question, and they respond to that question, and
Wait a minute, so long as they do not require matching funds, that's new too?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we just put in the treasurer
Nope.
shall be notified.
Nope.
Okay, all right, we'll have that looked at.
For their designated use is the end of the,
Yeah,
and that's been that way for a few years. So the thought then being, just add at the end of that sentence, or encumber the town, is that
or encumber the town in any way.
in any way?
Yeah, I'd make the argument a little stronger so it stands out clearly, that any encumbrance of the town
Okay.
must be done with the approval
Or
of the
encumber
body.
the town in any way, that seems a nice addition. Any further discussion? Does that make sense, Ted? I mean, do you have any objection in principle to?
Not in
doing that,
principle,
or-
but I want to have it looked at before we put it in there.
Oh,
make
yeah,
sure it's okay.
but do
Yeah.
keep in mind that all of that, all of that phraseology is new, or proposed new for this year. So we're just throwing a little bit more baggage to go along for the ride.
Yep.
Thank
So,
you.
yep, just talk to the other two. I don't think there's any problem with that.
All right, Article 17. To see if the town will vote to appropriate all the funds received from the state for snowmobile registrations to local snowmobile clubs for maintaining their snowmobile trails, on condition that those trails are to be open to the public for outdoor recreation purposes at no charge. Okay, so this is largely similar. The last part has been removed this year, okay, and so what's been removed is, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter, blah, blah, blah. So if we look here, this has been removed, and this is another one of those articles that happened, that magic happened in 2011 at lawyer suggestion, and it's been that way since. So it had the phrase, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter an agreement with said clubs under such terms and conditions as they may deem advisable for that purpose. So I guess my only real question would be, was that phrase problematic? Was it sort of random happenstance that it got removed, or was there a specific method to the madness?
No, we've never entered into any agreements with them. We just give them the check every year, so we don't have any agreements with them, so it was not necessary to ask for permission to enter into an agreement. Is the only reason I think we took it out, so.
And I think last year there was some question about local snowmobiles for maintaining their snowmobile trails. I think it had to do with whether the trails were within our town or not within our town. And I guess that's kind of a moot point to this article.
Yeah, there's some in our town, and then they connect to trails in other towns. It's a whole system where they all connect, and, the snowmobilers that come in and pay that fee would much rather see it go to keeping those trails groomed and open, so I think that's where the money should go. And I don't think it's that much involved. I'd have to ask Michelle, but I don't think we're talking a lot of money.
Yeah, actually, there may even be a,
No, it's not in here. It's under excise tax probably. Classified under excise tax.
because I know we had a piece of paper here that had some, on the income side, yeah, anticipated revenues.
It's not-
Not there. Okay.
Do we have, to your knowledge, a club in town that is uniquely, I would imagine that there's no club that's uniquely Acton residents, right? So,
No.
moot question in any case.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the club that they told us that they use, but, it comes in, I think it's like, Acton, Lebanon, Chapley, they're all one, it's one club that, and all the trails connect, so.
I'm sure that there is no Acton club.
No, it might be Acton, Chapley,
Okay.
or Acton, Lebanon, but,
Newfield.
yeah, Newfield, yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, moving on. So this one is brand spanking new. So Article 18, to see if the town will vote to appropriate revenues received from FEMA claims during the fiscal year 2014 and fiscal year 2015 into an emergency disaster reserve fund. Said funds are to be utilized at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen during a declared event.
What happens is when we have a declared event like we did last year, where they actually paid us for snow plowing, it takes a whole year for that money to come in. So we just got $13,000 for last year's big snowstorm. And we put it into a fund, a FEMA fund. So the next time FEMA declares a disaster in Acton, instead of the road commissioners using their own winter budget or summer budget, depending on when the storm is, we'll use that $13,000 to pay for that disaster at that time. And then, when that money comes in, then that goes back into the fund for the next disaster. But the money before we started this FEMA fund, was always going into the undesignated fund, so the road commissioners would use, if it was a hurricane in the summer, they would use their summer funds. If it was like that snowstorm last winter, they would use their winter funds, and they were never reimbursed to do the other projects that they had planned. So this way, the FEMA money goes back to the road commissioners, so, but it's always a year behind, so. So if we have an issue this year, we've got $13,000 that the road commissioners use before they go into their own money. Because we gotta fix it when it happens, so.
And FEMA has to declare emergency before you go into that.
Before we touch that money, FEMA has to declare an emergency, correct?
Any further discussion? Okay, Article 19. So the next two are zoning. I think it's worth an overview, but I will point out that there's going to be a public hearing this Thursday, yes?
Yes.
This coming Thursday, so 3 days from now, we're going to have the designated experts on hand to discuss any concerns that the townspeople have. So if this is going to air, Virginia, this is going to air before Thursday, correct?
Yes.
So if you have any concerns about any of the zoning changes that are coming up, by all means, be here at the town hall Thursday for the public hearing. And the schedule is up on actonmaine.org.
Yeah, there'll be a public hearing for liquor license for the potting shed at 6 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock is the public hearing for the zoning changes.
Thank you.
So I understand we're going to defer discussion of these.
Not entirely. I want to point out...
I'm in favor of just, until we hear from...
Okay, well, I just want to point out what seems a rather glaring flaw at first glance. I took the liberty of looking in the current zoning ordinance at section, where 4224 would go. And 4224 is located within 42, which is the Resource Protection District. So 4224, as written and in the zoning ordinance now, with the exception of those four words that are underlined, refers to Resource Protection District. So the proposal is to add in the Shoreland District to this phrase that will remain in the Resource Protection District, thus sort of hopelessly muddling intent of the zoning, in my humble opinion. Section 4.3, which is the next one down, is for Shoreland District, doesn't make any mention of this particular paragraph. There's no flavor of this particular paragraph in that section. But having seen these two facts of where this stuff is located and that we're intending to skew this paragraph to a district that we're not even talking about at the time, that's even before getting to the point of why this is being changed. So I will just leave it at that. It just seems very strange.
Good point.
Article 20. So this is a bit bigger, and this is going to get plunked into the zoning ordinance as well. So essentially, we have all of this phraseology, all of this is intended to be underlined, it's all new, and then the chart, the zone usage chart, it turns out that big chart that's in that article, there's really only one character that's being changed in the whole thing, so you might consider that you could probably make that chart that's in the warrant a little simpler than it is. So anyway, the thing that's being changed in the chart is the single-family dwelling from not allowed to conditional use permit for Zone 9, which is Resource Protection District. And so that's going to be located in Section 4.2, which is Resource Protection District. And my question about this was just, so what's the thing that we're trying to resolve here? And obviously that was a more appropriate question for the public hearing.
Correct. Yeah, because we got some phone calls, they were worried that you folks were gonna vote on this before the public hearing, so that's why it'd be better if we just wait to discuss it there, and then you guys can discuss it after you hear at the public hearing.
Yep. Agreed. So Article 21, so now we're getting into no, this is another new one. So to see if the town will vote to raise $13,824 for the Deputy Code Enforcement Officer position, which is Department 10215. And I'm reasonably sure that this was not in discussion on March 29th. I was a little surprised to find it in, when I got the warrant.
Yeah, Kenny came to us, he works 25 hours a week, and he's unable to work anymore. With what he's doing now, he's got a lot of buildings on the lakes and things like that. There's a lot of things being left behind, so he asked us to put in for an assistant or a deputy code enforcement officer, who we already have, who covers him on vacations and sick days and things like that, to help go out and enforce some issues that have been sitting around for a long time, because he is busy with these new buildings. The code enforcement office is paying for itself with fees that come in, and he feels he needs this gentleman 10 hours a week, but he won't need him December, January, February. He needs them a lot in the summertime. He said he hasn't been able to get out in a boat and go around the lakes and see what people are doing. We've got a lot of complaints of neighbors with other neighbors that have done things that didn't get permits for and things like that, and Ken can't get out and enforce that. And the other thing is the reason why we brought up the zoning questions that we can talk about on Thursday night. So he's feeling the need that he needs somebody else to be in there an additional 10 hours a week, which would still be less than a full-time job for a code enforcer. It would be 35 hours a week instead of 40.
My
Or
recollection,
25 is what Kenny works.
my recollection, Mr. Chairman, is that Ken alluded to this need during our previous workshop.
Last year.
Well, this year, when we met earlier.
And it also came up about the new zoning that was theoretically going to be in the current
Okay,
year.
well, I know he did
So
discuss the need for.
It's been coming.
Yeah, I know he did discuss the need for, or the lack of enforcement, what he felt was lack of enforcement.
So is there in fact a deputy CEO at this time? Because I do see
There's two of them.
We see the 160, for the current budget before this occurred, so.
What they do is if Kenny gets a chance to take his vacation, which he very rarely does, he'll take his vacation, and then one of these deputies will cover for him for that week or so while he's gone. He did take one finally this spring. He took a week off. So that way that the code enforcement office is still open, and people can, if somebody's in a stage where they need an inspection before they can call in the cement, the cement trucks, or the electrician's done and they want to put the sheetrock up, then they have to call Kenny, and this deputy will go in and cover for Kenny in those stages. So that money that's in the budget from the previous years covers that under Kenny's budget, but he's looking now for somebody to actually work 10 hours every week. So we budgeted for 10 hours a week for the whole year, but he doesn't think he'll need it for the whole year, but there may be times in the summer where you might need him 20 hours.
But it's not necessarily somebody that's going to have office hours, 10 hours whether you need them or not.
No,
It's going to be.
Ken will sign him as needed, and it's not a job that we're going to advertise, because we already have a deputy code enforcement officer that we have appointed, and he has been for 2 years now, so we're just going to increase his hours. So there'll be no medical insurance involved, no vacation or benefit, or any other kind of benefits. It's just a straight rate of $25 an hour, times 10 hours a week for 52 weeks.
Thank you. All right, so you can see here the 18.3%, my intent here was to sort of show that this department, this is going to get folded, assuming the town approves this article, I have every reason to expect that it's not going to be a repeating article, it's just going to fold that position into
The regular budget.
the regular budget for
Yeah.
future years, and it'll just be part of the regular budget as discussed, and it won't be a separate article anymore.
Yeah, it's just that we wanted to break it out of that budget so people could discuss whether they want to go for, pay for another code enforcement officer or not.
Yep. So that'll be going up 18.3% beyond the existing current, or prospective year budget. Oh, the other thing that occurred to me when I was reading this article is, it talks about raising. When would an appropriation occur? I mean, wouldn't the town need to say, to use the word appropriate, or just the fact that they're giving permission for this position to occur, we don't really need to appropriate?
I think you need to
You
put
need to appropriate if you're gonna spend.
Well, just,
Good catch.
Yep. No, we can raise them and then,
You're right.
yeah. And tell
And
them,
have another
we
town
can have a
meeting.
special town meeting.
in a year, we'll ask the town if it's okay to pay you.
To spend.
All right, so, and again, here, that 18.3% is an increase. So, as we get to the parts of this sheet here that are a little darker, that essentially signifies that where these percentages are no longer talking about last year, the next year, the next year, it's within these sections, it's actually talking about vertical elements. So, for instance, if you just look at Public Works, it's an increase of 7% from last year, but then if you start going down and considering each line item, then it goes up or down accordingly. So when we get there, we'll do that. But this is the first of those, but essentially that 18.3, obviously there's nothing last year to be 18.3% higher than. So that's 18.3% higher than the CEO office's budget right now, if it's approved. Appropriation for general government, Article 22. So that's 0.7% up. See if the town will vote to raise $674,460 and appropriate $676,460 for general government, Department 102, to be expended as follows. I think I'll waive my own reading on that. So, from last year, again, that's 0.7% higher. A little bit difference in the net versus gross. Last year, I think, was the first year for a while that there was some attempt made to offset some of the gross costs with some specified targeted income that would then offset for taxation purposes.
Like the $2,000, that'll be in there again. And what was the next one? Can you go over that?
To the right or down?
Be to the right. Bring the right over. There
Is
we
it
go.
in 2012?
Yeah, no. 22,113 from
Oh, okay, sorry.
Fire Department Capital
Yeah, 'cause
Improvement
you can
Fund
only
for
see the
expenses
left-hand side of
related to
this.
their use. Yeah, okay, so we took money out of the the Fire Department Capital Improvement Fund, because that's when we bought the truck,
Yep.
right? Yeah, so it was payment for a truck.
So this is the whole convoluted explanation of what we did last year. Had a lot of fire truck involvement, capital accounts, making payments on the fire truck, et cetera. It's a lot less elaborate this year. We really just have the APAT. And as far as the APAT goes, essentially, my understanding is that it's just a fresh understanding that APAT funds are not necessarily only restricted to be spent on APAT.
Exactly. We had a meeting with the department head from MetroCast came in to meet with us, and we were told before that all that money had to go into an account and it could only be spent on the cable. And she said, no, that's not in the contract. What's in the contract is funds that goes to the town if they have a cable station. So we are now going to put that budget in on the town floor every year and have the town vote on if that's how they want to spend the cable money, and then whatever's left from the cable money will go into the undesignated fund at the end of the year. Because right now, we're getting about $40,000 to $42,000 a year from the cable. And we have reserves, I believe we have reserves from the last couple of years because we have been spending not on anything but cable. The $2,000 goes to part of the office manager's salary because she does all the typing for the cards that go across, what do you call them, on the TV, to tell you about the different things that are going on in town.
Slides.
Yeah,
Slides.
the slides, yeah, she makes up the slides. A lot of times, she'll have to get in touch with APAT. So she spends a good part of her time every week on APAT, you know, as the office manager. So that's why we took $2,000 out of there last year to, you know, pay her from where she's earned, you know, where she's working. So, so we're gonna put that in again this year.
So other elements worthy of note, when we went over the budget on March 29th, so these numbers here for the gym were $4,000 and $550 respectively for heating, fuel, and electricity. Oh, excuse me, no, they were $3,300 and $450, so they've gone up a little bit. So collectively, you know, $700 in fuel, $100 in electricity from what we thought was going to be used by the gym as of March 29th.
That's because of the crazy winter we had, that, you know, that building has little to no insulation in it, and it was being heated all winter, so. That's why I say we're doubling the fees on the gym for next year, because they were pretty reasonable, but we weren't even raising the cost of the oil and the electricity, so we're gonna have to do that, or we're gonna have to figure something else out, because we can't be using tax dollars to run a gym.
May I, has any thought been given to a replacement for that building, because it is not worth repairing?
We haven't gotten that far yet. Like I say, we're trying to get town hall finished first, then we gotta look at the salt shed and figure out what we're gonna do there. You know, if we can't get the money from people using the gym to pay for the gym, then we should just close it down now, winterize it every year, not heat it, no electricity, and then figure out what we're gonna do down the road, but, we haven't talked about doing anything with it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just,
Because I know, I mean, there's cracks in the blocks, the roof needs to be redone, you know, so there's quite a bit of money.
you had mentioned roof being redone, and in terms of, frankly, it's not worth spending the money on, because
agree.
you don't have 15 years left in the building.
No, I agree. Well, we've seen that the last couple of years. We had several leaks where the foundation's leaking now. We did, you know, paint it with tar and everything, and it's held up so far, but we get another leak and the insurance company's not gonna cover it again, because they've already covered two. So, I mean, that shows that there's a problem with the water leaking in there now. And I mean, it's been flooded twice, so, yeah, definitely the building's beyond its usable.
Once the water gets into the blocks and it freezes and thaws in there, it
Makes
destroys
more room for the water to come through.
Well, it also destroys the structural integrity of the wall eventually.
Gotcha.
What about the ambulance building? Is that being fully utilized now?
It's still owned by the Ambulance Association, and they don't even want to discuss, but actually, I take that back. The Ambulance Association has just taken a recent change in management, and there's a possibility that they're going to come back to the town again and ask about joining the fire department, and then that would become a town building. So, you know, that's a possibility. So there is a new management in the Ambulance Association, and they have told us that they want to come back and discuss that again, and of course, we'd have to bring it before the town. So there may be something coming down the road, but not right yet. It's going to take them a while. You know, when they came to us last time, they were talking about a $500,000 budget for the ambulance, and they don't spend that much now. And actually, you know, if it's run right and the people go out on the calls, it'll pay for itself. It'll pay for itself. It definitely will. So we haven't started negotiations yet, but they have approached us. Bill Catanzi's the new president now, so they have approached us, and
That's good.
they're looking for some people to join the board. If anybody's interested, they could use some more people on the board, so hopefully down the road, something will come out of that. But yeah, it's just being used as a storage shed right now. For that matter, we could open up one of the garage doors and let them store all the stuff that they had down there up here and use that building for something else, you know.
It's been pointed out to me that when the Ambulance Association formed, their charter says that all town members, and I assume voters, are members of the Acton Ambulance Association.
Exactly.
So, you know, if you want to go and express your opinion, you know, by a vote, you know, and if they're holding a meeting, you know, all the town members are free to do that.
They don't even have a full board, because their board is made up of 12 individuals, so their board isn't even full, so if somebody wants to be on the board and help get them going again.
The usual small-town stuff, if you show up at a meeting, you're gonna end up being the president.
Chairman.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know the name of that tune. Okay, so another thing that's a little higher than it was before is, at the March 29th, was workers' comp. You know.
That's 'cause
it
we
is
got-
what it is.
We got the numbers from the insurance company that we didn't have.
And then the third one is something having to do with software. It says rent software, but I assume that's a software lease. of
Yeah, it's
some
at
kind.
least, we got the price on that too, that's gone up.
So it was like 5508, now it's 6400,
Yeah, that's the
going up
trio.
16%.
Yeah, that's the trio.
Certainly don't want to skimp on that. That's what keeps our town running.
Yeah, exactly. And since we've had that, and now with the assessors tying into that, we've got better record keeping than we have with that other software we had for assessing before. That just went belly up after the guy that
Yep.
made it died.
Yeah.
And his family says, you can have it, we don't want anything to do with it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want an adventure.
So this article, on the face value, you know, it's going up 0.7%, but keep in mind that it does not include the separate article for the $18,000, excuse me, the $13,000 for the deputy CEO. So there are two separate articles. So you can expect that if Article 21, which is the deputy CEO, I believe, yeah, is approved this year, we can expect 13,824 or thereabouts to be folded into this article next year. All right, moving on. It is 7:18. Does anybody need 5 minutes to stretch legs, or? All right. Let's move on. Article 23, Health and Welfare. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,108 for Health and Welfare, Department 103. This includes $108 for health officer stipend and $10,000 for general assistance. And no surprises here, this is as discussed, essentially as prior years and as discussed on March 29th. And
Yeah,
it's
we're still
Article
doing
23.
well on holding the 10,000 for general assistance, which is good considering that almost everything we had this year was for oil or propane. Every request was either oil or propane this winter. But we did get a lot of donations from some of the oil companies, some of the propane companies, the Lions Club donated some, so we were actually able to help some people who were in need that otherwise wouldn't have qualified for general assistance this year because they didn't specify general assistance, they just specified family in need. So we were able to help some families that otherwise couldn't have come in and gotten any help with oil this year. So that was good. So, and we're under budget right now, not by much, but we're still under budget for this year.
Have an objection to recognizing those contributors at the town meeting?
We do. As soon as they send it in, well, at town meeting, yeah, we could. Yeah, we should.
I think it would be
Because as soon as it comes in, we announce it at our selectmen's meeting. But yeah, we could do it at the town meeting. It's a good idea.
When the article comes up.
So this one has been, the last couple of years, 2 years ago, you made mention of the general assistance just being a little bit better under control than in prior years, so.
Well,
you know,
yeah, if you
this
look
number
back-
has been higher in the past.
We were over 20,000
25.
4 years ago or 3 years ago.
25 and,
Yeah, well, we went up
2011.
because it kept, yeah, we were 15, then we went up to 25, because it was getting worse and worse. But some things changed in town that made us be able to go back to 10. Well, one thing we did was we only do general service, except for emergencies, on Thursday night, from 4 to 7. If you are able to work and just don't have work, you will get assistance the first time, but you have to do work fare for the town at $10 an hour to pay back what we gave you before we'll give you anything more. So that stopped a lot of people from coming back over and over and over again because they don't want to go and work when they're perfectly healthy. I mean, if they have a disability that they can prove, we don't ask them to work and they can come back and get more help. But if they're perfectly able to work, we give them a chance to work that off, and then we will assist them again, but we're not seeing a lot of repeats before we added this workfare in, so, and it's perfectly legal to do that, so that's cut it down too. So, but I tell you, to be honest with you, I think the biggest thing was Thursday nights only from 4 to 7, because, you know, if they can't make it then, they just don't show up, you know, and they don't come in and ask, so that brought the amount of people coming through the door down. So we're getting people that really need assistance because they're making their schedule work to be there, they're doing the workfare and things like that, so I'm more pleased with the way the program runs now than I was when we were asking for $25,000, so.
Thank you. Okay, Article 24, appropriation for public safety. Oh, one other thing I'd like to point out, not all of these monetary articles cite a department in a department number on the warrant. Can I just sort of put a general bug in your ear that it's kind of nice, especially if you have like the budget book in front of you, to be able to take the warrant article and then tie it to a department?
I got Article 23.
Oh, no, I'm not saying those are missing them, but some of them are missing them. Like, for instance, even the new one for APAT doesn't have it, just as an example. But there's maybe three or four of them that don't have it.
If you want to just send that to Michelle, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'll do that. Yeah, we'll probably have to come up with one for APAT because we didn't, no, it's still.
No, it's 111-10 or something, I think. We have a number, it's just not in the warrant.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll just point it out as it goes by. So Article 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $165,802 for Public Safety Department 104 to be expended as follows. And then this one is actually going up 4.9% from last year. This one, no surprises from March 29th workshop. And,
I think it's the communication and animal control are
Yeah.
the ones that went up.
the tower is definitely an issue. Okay, so Department 104, oh, excuse me. Article 24.
Yeah, we put in, $4,500 for the tower just in case, but we're still negotiating with 9 towns. I guess there's only 9 towns out of the 12 towns that use the tower.
I would think actually it would be less than that, but I
Yeah, so basically, we're going to be potentially spending a fair amount more money on the tower lease than has been the case in the past.
Well, we've had it for 20 years without paying anything. And they approach us this year, and that's what they want, for payment from now on. So, because the 9 town, or the 12 towns pays the electricity, pays maintenance, all that, but they bill us for it, Ed's working with them to negotiate that they take that $4,800 on and split it among the 9 towns, then it's a lot more manageable, or a lot easier to take, but, 20 years for free, we've had the tower up there. So, we're putting it into the budget just in case, because otherwise we're gonna be without a tower. We've been working on this since December, and, they would like to see some money. We looked at other options. We looked at buying the land from them at the value, which would be $10,000. We looked at giving them, taking that off their taxes, which only amounted to a couple of $100, and it wasn't, she didn't want to sell it, and she didn't want to do it for $200 a year, so that's the number she came up with.
my understanding is that there are going to need to be some capital improvements over at that site also. And you might,
Is this from your son?
yeah, you're aware?
No, I haven't heard anything about needing to do anything in there.
Just something you might keep in mind and check into if you, I don't know what they are, but I do.
I mean, if that's the case, then we might want to just look at, rather than putting money into a 20-year-old system, maybe putting it someplace else.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's kind of like putting good money after bad.
like the fire station.
The only other thing, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
go back there for a minute?
Sure.
I guess, I would expect to see in the Department of Public Safety payment for our police officer, and I see it's not in there. Where is that? Is that separate? Or maybe we need some clarification on this.
That's under our budget, right? I saw it
Yep.
in there. It's under general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't a logical public safety location for that be in that department?
Yeah, let me see here. Law enforcement services, yeah, that's in general government.
Yeah.
One moment, let me see if we can find
Just a
it.
thought.
Yeah, it'd make my budget go down and the fire departments go up.
Well, I think it says public safety.
Yeah.
And everything else that's public safety is there, so just a thought.
Somewhere in here. Oh, there it is, right here. 50483, September 27, Article 3. So it was originally from, I believe, an undesignated fund article, and now it's since been moved into this department as of last year.
Well, it was voted at a special town meeting and it started
Yeah.
January, so we had to use undesignated funds to pay for the first half year. But actually, it was a yearly fee, so we actually paid for the first year out of undesignated funds, and then last year, we went to the town to ask the money for each year. So that's when we put it in
So-
the budget.
This coming year is going to be year 2 of the 4-year contract.
It was one full year January, their calendar year, so it was one full year January.
Okay, so is it coming before the town on year 3? I assume we're not waiting for year 4. In other words, when is
Yeah,
the
no,
town going
because
to need
year
to
4
decide whether they want to re-up or not?
Yeah, we have to do 4 years. So the 4th year, it goes up to $40,000 for our share, and
Right.
40,000, well, actually, it'd be a little bit more than that, 42.
Yeah, and in fact, our 20 has gone to 22 due to apparently contract negotiations, which the town has no part of. The sheriff's department just basically says, this is what the salaries are now, and
Well, no, the
pay half
county.
of them, right?
The county commissioners, like the school board, negotiate with all the employees of the county, and their contract was up this year, so, whatever raises they get are in the agreement that we have to cover those. So that's why it went from 20,000 to 22,000. He got a raise, this year, or he's just got a raise, we started paying it, but we're putting in enough to make sure that we can pay it for the next year. Same as the teachers get, they negotiate and they get their raises every year, and that's how the county employees work too.
Thank you. Any further?
I think you have a nervous hockey fan on the roster. I'm sorry.
County business.
You can catch it in 5 minutes. That would be permissible.
It's the last 5 minutes that count.
Be nice if you could pick it up on Netflix or Hulu after the fact, or TiVo. Some other acronym. Okay, so, yeah, so that's 4.9. Worth pointing out, I added in here also special meeting stuff. So this is actually, this next line item, and I thought this was an appropriate place for it. Last fall, we voted $25,000 for repair to engine 1 to get that back on the road. So that went into last year's, or this current year's budget for that purpose, so that,
We took that out of the undesignated fund. They blew a pump, so we lost a truck, and it was $25,000, and that's what their entire maintenance budget is for all their vehicles. So we asked the town to let us take it out of the undesignated fund so they could still do oil changes, buy tires, buy batteries, whatever they needed for all the other vehicles, so we're not asking for that this year. That was an emergency last year. Yeah, we didn't use the 15,000, we just went to the town and asked to take 25,000 out of the undesignated.
thank you. So, Article 25, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $10,800 to purchase SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus for the fire department. And this is part of this is the third consecutive year of aging hardware swap out and rotation. So essentially, they're trying to take this is a combination of just the reliability of the equipment, but also the style of the equipment is different from what it used to be. And they need to be able to, when they have a multi-alarm fire, they need to be able to take their equipment and charge it up on neighboring towns' charger, air compressor. And if we hadn't upgraded, or if we're not in the process of upgrading, then any of our older equipment, we couldn't recharge it in the field. So that was another side issue. So I'm not entirely sure if, in fact, this is going to stop, but this is the third year in a row, and so it's essentially staged rolling replacements to not totally soak the town in 1 year for all of the replacements. So this is in the darker area again, so what we're talking about is if we just consider this line item for '24, this year, we're going up 4.9%. But then if you consider, and I somehow didn't manage to not put one here, but if you consider then the 25,000 added to last year for the repair, plus the 10,008 added for the self-contained breathing apparatus equipment, this year, these two items are 8.9% lower than these three items last year. If in fact you want to try to feel good about anything, you can say, well, gee, we're spending 8.9% less than last year so far. Assuming the creek don't rise and we don't need another special repair. All right, so Article 26. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $30,000 to add to the capital improvement fund for the fire department toward the future purchase of a new fire truck. And the whole purpose of this is to avoid needing a huge loan for purchasing the next fire truck whenever that happens to come down the pike.
Yeah. So if you look back, last year, we asked for 18,000, I think. And that was the difference between what the payment was for the new truck and what we had been appropriating every year. This year, because we're going down on we only have to pay 6 months on the rear valve, we went up to $30,000, and then next year, we'll go back to the $50,000 a year until we have the $350,000 in for the tanker truck. And then when the tanker truck needs to be replaced in 3 to 5 years, the money will be there, we won't have to borrow next time, and we'll have the other fire truck paid off at that time too.
So in 2011, I don't know if that actually is showing, yeah, it's sort of, $50,000 in 2011 because the writing was on the wall that we were going to need a new fire truck.
Yeah, it was started in...
Next couple of years, and
It
then
started
it
in 2010 is the first year that they put 50,000 in. And then 2011 it was 50, and then 2012 we did 75 because that's when the other truck died and we knew we were gonna get it, we were gonna have to buy it right away. And then last year we did 18,276, and this year we're asking for 30,000. And then next year we'll go back to the 50,000 each year until we get enough to buy the next truck. And then I think we should still go down to like maybe 25,000 a year, just so we never have to do that again. Having those two loans at the same time was not fun. 260,000 for a rear valve and $300,000 for a fire truck at the same time is $100,000 a year in payments.
A lot of pots on the fire there.
Just as a side note to that, these capital improvement funds, I would think, can reasonably be rationalized to offset what you need to maintain in the unappropriated surplus. Otherwise, the money is fungible in any case.
The thing is with the undesignated fund, that includes a unpaid taxes. So right now, we're looking at, undesignated fund of maybe $900,000.
So it's not as liquid as it could be.
500,000 of that is taxes that we haven't collected yet. And with what we had this winter, we came in and asked for $150,000 in a special town meeting to pay for this winter. If we don't have cash in the bank, then, we can't pay for our bills. So we need to keep, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's not really a lot of cash because we have so much in the bank.
I understand that.
It includes all payables. Everything that everybody owes us is included in that $900,000. When I came in, there was 500,000 in the undesignated fund, and 300 of that was back taxes.
Paid taxes.
Yeah. So,
500,000.
right now,
probably is just about covers your
I just got the
operating
figure the other day because we wanted to figure out what we were gonna ask the town to allow us to put forward. So I got the figure the other day from Michelle. She said right now it's about 900,000, but she's, our April taxes just came due.
Right.
And so we've got all the people that haven't paid April taxes, plus the people that, usually 30 to 50 are 2 to 3 years behind. So we're looking at about $500,000 of that 900,000 is not in the bank, it's just owed to us.
What's her minimum cash on hand at any point during the year usually, or what is it this year? Do you have an idea right offhand?
Usually it's
Know
like,
where you are with it.
usually every time I ask her, it's usually like 2.1 million or 1.9 million.
Cash on hand?
Yeah.
What about right before taxes come due, the April tax bill comes due, or October tax bills would be better? How much cash does she have on hand, do you know?
I would say over $1 million easy, close to 2 million.
Before the taxes are paid?
Yeah.
And that includes the school funds? Or
Yeah,
not, doesn't?
sure.
Yeah, actually, it might be less because we have to pay the teachers their summer pay in June, so that takes quite a bit. The other thing we did was all these different places we were paying money to, all the charities, the special projects. Everybody was coming in, the meeting's in June, okay, July 1st, I want to start my special project. Well, we haven't started collecting that tax money yet.
Right.
So we put people off, so like the charities, they get 2 payments now. They don't get it as soon as the town meeting's over. They get a payment in October when we get those taxes, and then they get a payment in April when we get those taxes. Because there was a cash flow problem.
Okay.
Yeah, there definitely was a cash flow problem, but we don't seem to have it now, but I don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I know it has not been an issue for 4 years now that we haven't had a cash flow problem.
Okay.
Yeah. But, it's, you vote in, like, what's the road that the post office is on? Yeah, we voted in that Sam Page project, 90 grand. And town meeting's over, you go out and spend 90 grand, you wipe out your cash flow.
Your most expenditures come right after the town meeting. That's when
Yeah.
everybody wants their money, and that's
Yeah.
when you,
Yeah,
that
and-
first session is when you.
Yeah, so we put them all off and say, hey, just because they voted in June doesn't mean we have the money. We don't get that until October. So we put a lot of people off, waiting for, another one was the extra taxes we had to pay for the county last year. We paid the regular taxes in October, and then we paid the other half in December. So, we chose that option so that we didn't have to come up with all that money at the same time. Plus, it was nicer to leave the 100 grand in our bank account for a little while longer than put it in the county's bank account.
I guess that would be a matter of your perspective, right? I'm sure they have a slightly different opinion.
Well, 2% is 2%.
All right, Article 27, we're going back to non-monetary for this one. And from what I gather, from close examination of the two articles, they are literally the same except for the space between this paragraph and the cost of operations below, as far as how the warrant is written. Last year, in fact, Mr. Gore made a motion to amend
I did.
slightly.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and motion carried, so this is what we're currently using with this amendment. The way I look at it, as far as the amendment goes, I think it's normally calculated by just starting with your 430, and then you say, well, how much over it is that, and then add so much prorated. And I think the intent was to be able to subtract again once it had been added.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I had a very hard time understanding this one last year. You're making an adjusted rate of $1 for each 25-cent change. Now, that to me sounds like for every 25 cents per gallon gas goes up, we're going up $1 per gallon.
That's because the trucks are getting 4 miles to the gallon.
So we really are going up $1 per gallon.
Oh, yeah, because the trucks are getting 4 miles to the gallon.
But if it's only going up 25 cents a gallon, why do we have to go up $1?
I gotta flip this back.
I would think that the cost of gas wouldn't affect how the truck burns it.
No,
You know,
it's going to be a percentage of the operating cost of the truck.
We're not paying $1 a gallon.
That's what it doesn't say.
Yeah, we're paying $1 more for the truck.
Right,
Right.
but that's not what it says.
Yeah.
And that's very confusing, because it sounds like,
Yeah.
written that way, that
You're
we are
right, it
going up
does,
$1
yeah.
a gallon.
Yeah.
So say $1 for,
It's $1 per hour.
per hour.
Yeah.
Per hour.
Yeah, put per hour in there or something, because that's very confusing.
well, actually, does it say, yeah, okay. So
that would
look
clarify
at,
things.
look at the part of the article which talks about that. We'll pay an additional $1 for each 25, okay, well, you know, that's a very interesting point, that it might be really nice if that actually said an additional $1
Per hour.
per hour.
Because you see up the top, two-wheel drive is $50.20 per hour, so it would go up to $51.20 per hour.
That explains it.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
yes, but that's not what it
That's,
says.
you're right, it doesn't say that. You're right, it doesn't.
Now, what about when we got this kind of stuff? $1 per hour additional on top of 698 makes a heck of a lot more of a difference than $1 per hour on top of 73.
I think it says diesel down the
Your
bottom,
dozer.
doesn't it?
No, per gallon.
Nope, just
Oh, fuel price.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah.
So, you know,
Little cleaning up is needed.
there's a little imperfection here. But I guess, at the very least, the intent could be clarified by saying an additional $1 per hour, because all of this is per hour.
Yep.
And these are all the rates, you know, the general equipment rates, wages and equipment for repair according to the following schedule. So yeah, an adjusted rate of $1 per hour. Because that is in fact what it means. Correct?
Yep.
Yep.
Additional $1 per hour.
Or how about the hourly rate will be adjusted by $1?
So fold it in?
Yeah. No. The hourly rate to be adjusted by plus or minus $1 per hour when the cost of fuel goes
So if it
up or
goes down,
Right, goes
do
down,
we-
it goes down, it goes down $1. If it goes up $1.
Makes sense.
So it wouldn't be adjusted below the, you know, the 430 per gallon, but if it goes up, if the price of it goes up to, say, $5 a gallon, and then it comes back down again, it would, even with the old phraseology, it is certainly my impression that it's very clear that
so if diesel went
you
down
would
to-
come back down.
If diesel went down to $3.50 an hour, the price of $1, or $3.50 a
It
gallon?
wouldn't adjust downward because it's based on 430.
Wow. That's a deal.
I don't think you're gonna see it below 430. Well, actually, it's a little bit below that in New Hampshire right now, but still.
Any further discussion on this one?
I think it needs a little polishing.
Yeah, it probably does.
Point well taken on the wording and
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're a microcosm of the town, you know, on the committee, like, we have our specialties and not, and, you know, we'll have all the same questions that the townsfolk do.
should read the above vehicle rates.
Not all vehicles, though.
Do you
We
wanna,
don't want to adjust chainsaws up $1 for,
Oh, okay, gotcha, yeah.
even if there is a diesel chainsaw.
If they do, they'll park all their big trucks and just everybody go out with chainsaws.
Right.
More money.
Are you happy with the motion as conveyed from last year with the additional provision about the per hour?
I think the intent was dealt with at the meeting last year. I think the whole article needs a little bit of clarification, and let's see what the selectmen come up with, before we,
That's assuming the
over.
selectmen do come up with something
well,
different.
I think Ted's in agreement that
Okay.
needs some clarification. Wouldn't you say,
Cool.
Ted?
Yep, we'll do the $1 per hour.
Well, certainly about the per hour.
Yep.
Yeah, because it does look like, $1 per gallon.
For each-
We'll pay you $1 per gallon for each 25-cent increase in the price per gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a truck with a wing plow gets $3.20 an hour extra instead of $2.20 an hour,
Exactly.
which is a problem.
Yeah, I gotta look, yeah, and the attachments and the,
Yeah, yeah.
you have to apply a little, you have to activate your DWIM circuit, which is your do what I mean, not what I say.
Well, that's how we got to the end of last year's meeting,
Yeah.
but it wasn't well thought through.
Okay, so that was last year. This year, none of these dollar amounts are, it's all the same as last year's warrant, again, with the exception of that one spacing, which, of course, has no legal bearing whatsoever. All right. 28, appropriation for public works. So that's actually going to be going up 7%.
Only if the, special projects get voted in.
Well, no, this is actually just according to the line, so we're going, as we go down, we're factoring in additional lines. So this has to do with the salt and sand.
Oh,
budget.
yeah, the $30,000,
30,000.
yeah.
So that's going up on the budget. It's worth sort of overviewing this briefly. So last year and this year, we had the regular budget. The year before last year, we had to ratify some overdrafts, but I don't think we changed the salt and sand numbers. I mean, we might have tweaked them a little
We
bit.
didn't. No, we've left it the same for the last 3 years, and we've.
It couldn't possibly happen 2 years in a row.
It happened 3 years in a row.
Yeah.
And not last year, the year before, we changed some of the the way the accounts were set up. There was enough money left in the transfer station to cover it for that first year. Then last year, we came back to the town and asked for the difference, and then this year, we had to come back to the town and ask for the difference.
So 7.6% increase over the previous year. So that's even including, so here's our regular budget.
Yep, and then we went over it by 30,000.
Then we went over, we had overdrafts that we had to ratify, so I've added that in.
Yep.
And then if we include those two, then this year's numbers, or excuse me, yeah, the current year's numbers are 6.4% less. But then when we have to add in the special town meeting overdrafts for this current year, that brings us 7.6% over last year. I've got this in brown because this is just a funny number here. My impression is that there's, of the additional plowing and sanding funds, like the 95,000 that was requested at special town meeting.
Yeah, that just stays right in the
About
undesignated fund.
somewhere 30,000 and change is what's actually been spent.
Stockpile. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is for the additional plowing and sanding funds for clearing roads for the spring. We weren't quite sure how many more storms we were gonna get at special, as a special town meeting.
We asked for the 64,000, which is what we overdrafted, and then we asked for 90,000 more, I believe.
Right, so that was,
97,000.
total of
We
97,000.
only spent 30 of that, so the 67,000 just stays right in the undesignated fund, never comes out.
Very
And it doesn't go into their budget.
Very pessimistic.
Well, we don't want another special town meeting.
Colorado got dumped on Mother's Day.
I know. I think rightly so. We were all feeling pretty pessimistic about
It
that.
gets a little old saying, it couldn't possibly happen. So I think of this, that 30,000 of this money, was spent, and the remainder is going back into undesignated, of this 97.
Yeah, it never came out of the undesignated, so it's still there.
So that's why I'm just throwing 30,000 there as something to shoot for. So as of this current year, including down to all of what we need to operate, we're 14% higher than last year, even including all the specials, and overdrafts. And then this coming year, we're assuming, we have added 30,000 to salt and sand.
Right.
But with the budget as proposed, it's 12% less than what we actually spent this year.
Yeah,
So we're not expecting it to be quite so nasty as.
the last 2 years, we went over on salt and sand, because we got a lot of freezing rainstorms rather than plowing. This year, we not only went over on salt and sand, we also went over on plowing, because we had both. We had a lot of ice storms, we had a lot of heavy snowstorms, so we went over on both. So we feel comfortable with just going with the same for the plowing and going up to 30,000 for the salt and sand, because we've had to do that 3 years in a row. But we feel comfortable doing that. Plus, we still got the 15% overdraft should we need it. We don't want to go and have tax dollars give us more money to put into that account if we're not going to need it, so. Because then if we tax them for more for plowing, go up to what we spent this year, then that just goes into the undesignated fund at the end of the year. So there's no sense taxing now. If we need it, we can go back and ask for it later, and that's what we have the undesignated fund for, is for emergencies like that.
Thank you.
We plan on keeping the tax rate flat this year. No increase.
All right, so here we are with Article 28, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $457,421 for Public Works, Department 105, to be expended as follows. And all of these do prove to what was discussed, no surprises there. But also note that Articles 29, 30, 31, 32, and 33, which are here, are requesting for special projects for additional funding for roads.
Yeah, Article 29, the Europe funds have gone down. So we're still leaving that at $90,000 for surfacing for each side of town, but we have to make up, I think it's $14,000 or $16,000 that the state cut from us, to keep it at the same number. Because it's not even called Europe funds, they call it something else now.
Town welfare.
LRAP is according to the Warrant article.
LRAP, yeah.
Dr. J, LRAP, yeah. Okay, so last year, we were gonna be raising $111,984 for the $180,000 appropriation. This year, slightly higher, $125,724 for the $180,000
Yeah, that's the difference.
appropriation. And these do all prove to the budget book. So really the only thing as far as this guy goes, Article 28, it's gone up 7%, but you can pretty much see that if you compare the numbers here line by line, that, they're all flat, and they've been flat. It's sort of remarkable, in fact, that winter and summer maintenance has been flat for multiple years.
3 years.
And it's only the stockpile that's going up $30,000, just to try to make sure that, or forestall the chance of what we went through this year and the year before from happening yet again.
The town is divided into north and south, is that 109 kind of the dividing line?
Yeah.
Is the mileage equal on both sides?
Well, what happens is in the winter, they have to change roads on who plows what, because we take over plowing for the state on Milton Mills Road and Fox's Ridge Road, which is 13 miles, is that how much they told us they, Stan?
Sounds right.
The Southern District takes that, so then the Northern District comes over and takes some roads from the Southern District to cover, so that they have the same mileage. Summertime, the 109 pretty much cuts it right in the middle.
Really?
Yeah.
For the record, when we get to the end of Public Works, we'll call it a night,
Good.
and we'll
Good
start in
plan.
tomorrow.
Good plan. I was gonna suggest that, but I'm.
Well, I figured when I started
Keep my
hearing
mouth shut.
snoring, I'd potentially.
Well, the lights are getting dimmer, have you noticed?
Strictly for the overhead.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman.
so, now we have essentially the four projects. There's actually 5 projects that are combined into 4, according to what you can see in the budgeting, but, so Article 30, District 1, special project, purchasing guardrails for Cemetery Hill. Now, the original budget thing said it was either 30,000 for new or 25 for used, and it's now showing up as 25, so I assume that that's because we're going with used guardrails, or am I
That-
totally
yeah,
jumping to the wrong
if-
conclusion here?
We had Scott look at it just before we gave it to you guys, and that must be what he asked for, so he's made the decision to go with used, I guess. That's right where that little pond is, where Lorraine did her header with her car, went down right into the brook there, or into the pond down there? Yeah. Yeah, her and two,
Granddaughter did
her and
it.
two of her, well, granddaughter was driving, but Lorraine's the one that took the brunt of the accident. Yeah, 3 of them went down into that hole down there, so, this is the second year Scott's asked for it, so we decided to put it on the warrant this year.
We're getting older, Nancy, we need it.
Moral of the story is, don't drive with your grandchildren.
Don't let your grandchildren drive.
Actually, so this one, obviously, since it's a special article, you're only gonna see it one time, but, this is one that, we have a department and account here for this particular item.
Yeah, and-
Although, if it's not a recurring, I would say you're recused from having to put the article on, the budget book citation on there. So Article 31,
And they
District
don't-
1,
They only get to use that money for that project, so if there's money left, then they don't get to spend it on something else, so that goes back into the undesignated fund.
so $35,000 for District 1 Road Special Project for grinding of the asphalt on portion of San Page Road from the intersection of the H Road to the intersection of Nasson Road.
Yeah, he's gonna use this 35,000 to do the grinding, then he's gonna use part of his 90,000 to put in the new pavement.
So it must be really beat up to want to grind the old paving out. What is it, just frost heave every year and just beats the crap out of it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, we like it that way. Traffic
Apparently we
at
do.
a minimum and slows people down, however you
It saves money on speed bumps.
wanted to fix it up.
Can't tell you how
I
many
get
years I fought,
broken,
I
thank
can't tell you how
God.
many years I fought with Gurdon on my, finally said, Tom, I have to do it. Okay.
I know.
And now that's a
Yeah,
regular.
Scott, did Scott do Nason Road last year?
Yes.
Yeah, so he did
Did an
Nason Road
excellent
next
job,
year, and now
too.
he's,
I couldn't believe how well that held all winter, and it was a wicked winter.
yeah. So now he's just connecting to the work that he did last year, so.
Yeah, well, that corner there,
So, and I presume, I presume that the road commissioners are also going to be, discussing each of these projects at town meeting as well.
Exactly.
District 2 Special Buzzell Road. So this is where we actually have 2 separate budget items that are combined into one warrant article, but for one project. So we have grade and finish grade and installation of shoulders on new hut top.
Yeah, that'll be the same thing, they'll grind grade and finish grade, and then they'll put the tar down using his 90,000, and then he's asking for the 8,500 for the shoulders on the new hot top. So it's all one project.
And it's worth actually reading the project request from our budget on March 29th, assuming I can find it, because it actually gives some good details. Alrighty then. Does anybody actually have that? I thought I did.
I thought I did too, and I can't find it.
Okay, well, I have District 2. And actually, that's really the one that I was, okay. So, of the ones that we've just gone over, the Cemetery Hill one, the guardrails, says purchase of guardrails, quoted $25,000 for used, $30,000 for new, installation and prep work to be expensed through summer maintenance. The next one is Sandpage Road, grinding from H Road to Mason Road, quoted $35,000 for grinding only, remainder of work to be spent through summer maintenance and surface account. So that then brings us to the next project, which is this one. So Article 32, and this is the 41332 for District 2, Buzzell Road. 1,000 feet of Buzzell Road from corner of Lopez Residence to intersection of Langley Shores. Grind, grade, and finish grade. 2-inch by 20-foot base hot top, 1-inch by 20-foot surface hot top. Quote given by Dayton Sand and Gravel, $32,832. Ditch and cut trees, 2,000 feet of Buzzell Road. Change out culverts, 150 feet. Elevate road surface at corner of Lopez Residence. Elevate road surface at intersection of Langley Shores. Install shoulders on new hot top, $8,500 for all of that. And that's where this particular project comes from. So essentially, I'm seeing that the paving stuff, the grinding is only on 1,000 feet, but the other treatment is for about 2,000 feet worth. And again, basically just seeing what the needs are in the town, where we can get the best bang for our buck. And apparently this is it. Any further discussion?
At the recommendation of our road commissioners, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we elect them for.
Right.
Okay, Article 33, District 2 Special Pavement Repair at Public Safety Building.
Okay, this request came from Peter Smith, and he's the head of the road committee for Sanford. And David agreed with him, if we seal that parking lot, it'll last us another 7 or 8 years. If we leave it alone, we're gonna have to be repaving that very soon, so they wanna seal it. So it's $9,500 to seal all the cracks on the.
And is that on the entire lot? I sort of got the impression that we're just talking about, like, close to the building, like maybe where the water drains down or something.
No, wherever there's a crack on that parking lot, they're gonna seal it with, I think rubber, isn't that what they use, the rubber sealant?
I don't know what they use.
Yeah, it looks like a rubber type stuff. And it's to keep the moisture from getting underneath the tar and forcing it up, so. But Peter says, they do a lot of it in Sanford, and he says that it'll give us another 7, 8 years on that parking lot, so I think it's well worth doing.
Okay, so I also have a letter from Acton Fire Department for request as well. Talks about the $75,000 to the new fire truck fund, or actually, which is gonna be 50, right? 50? 30? What the heck are we putting toward the fire truck? 30?
They asked for, we're only giving them 30. Or we're asking the town for 30.
Right, okay, so 30, 10-8 for the SCBA's. Also a reminder of 2 future capital improvement costs, one of which is on the budget and one of which is not. This one's, the first one is, first capital expenditure would be a sum of $30,000, which is a 2012 cost, to be needed within 5 years for replacing the backside roofing. So that will be coming up in a future town meeting.
Yep.
Fire station.
Yeah, the backside of the fire station. Shingles are starting to go.
And the second one is $5,000, 2012 cost to fill cracks and seal pavement surrounding public safety buildings. So again, I guess we have an up cost on just the, what a difference a year makes.
Well, David got an estimate from the company that does it, and that's what he's coming up with, is $9,500. But again, if it comes out cheaper than that, then the money just goes in the undesignated fund.
$9,500 to re-roof it, is that what they're?
To seal it. To
Filling
seal-
cracks, sealing
sorry,
pavement.
Seal the whole parking lot.
I'm still on the roof.
Come down off the roof. Okay, so going back to the dark stuff here in the percentages, so now that we've talked about those, we can see that if we don't include them, then this year's budget for roads is going down 9% from what we have spent total last year, including the special town meetings and what have you. So as we can see that we're saving less and less as we start tacking on more projects. And so effectively, if the town grants all of these projects, then the roads department will be spending 6.7% more. Although one could argue that public safety building is public safety building and not roads, but we're talking about 6.7% aggregate more than last year, aggregate.
Yeah, the reason we had David put it in is because that's his job, that's his profession, and we wanted him to be overseeing it. If we put it on the fire department budget and then had them hire somebody, then, who's there to oversee it? So it actually works out well, because if you look at the split, David's got the fire station and the Acton School, Scott's got the town hall and the transfer station, so they each have 2 municipal buildings within their districts, so it works out well to do it that way. But we wanted David to oversee that, so that's why we asked him to put in for plus he can explain it at the town meeting too, so.
Thank you.
Just the same as if we were to do the town hall parking lot, we'd have Scott put in for us.
Any further discussion on any of these things? Okay, so the last one we're going to talk about is transfer station. Article 34, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $274,847 for the transfer station, Public Works Department 10540, and this proves to the book. And what we've got here is 0.9% increase, not a whole lot of difference here. So Article 34.
I think the only increase is in
Fuel and salaries.
fuel and salaries, yeah, we gave raises.
So here's 34.
And I think you're gonna see quite a difference in the budget next year. We don't know for sure yet, that's why we're asking the same as last year, except for the fuel increase and the salary increase. But we've just ordered a new compactor, and that will be in place the week after Memorial Day. And we've been paying $8,000 a year to rent that compactor down there. And we will not, and it was $25,000 for a new one installed. And there was enough money left in this year's budget at the transfer station to pay for it, so we won't be asking for any tax money for it, and it'll all be in under this year's budget. And then it goes $8,000 a year. We also went out and got a new hauler, which was, I can't remember how much difference it was, but it was quite a few, it was quite a bit cheaper for our new hauler. And then with the negotiations that we did last year, after they closed Merck, where we went from $89 a ton down to $70.50 a ton, you're gonna see a drastic decrease in the transfer station next year.
Yeah, you alluded to that at our previous meeting.
Yeah.
It sounded like
Yeah.
good changes.
Yeah,
So the
we
question
have-
is it going to decrease, or is it going to be subsumed elsewhere, like?
I think I can't see, unless fuel goes up to $10 a gallon, I can't see that, I can't see that there'll be any increases next year. I mean, Bob has done an amazing job since he's been down there turning that place around, and it is so well run, and he is so on top of the budget, and he's constantly, I'm a taxpayer, I'm gonna keep this running as cheap as I can, but, is the best I can too. And it's been great since he's been here, him and all the other guys that are working up there, we have not had any complaints since Bob's been up there. By either the people in town or by the employees up there, who are also very happy right now. So that we gotta take our hats off to Bob, because he's really turned that place around. Both just feeling good about going there, plus the money that he's saving us too at the same time. So we're very, very lucky to have
It's a
him.
whole culture thing.
It really has, yeah, it's a drastic change, it's just been amazing, so.
So, total for Public Works, so that's roads and transfer station, as on the warrant compared to what we actually spent last year, would be 5.1% increase. but keeping in mind, a fair amount of road repair as well, so, that's not a horrendous thing. All right, so that's it. We'll start with Article 35 tomorrow night. And that wraps up our workshop for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.